Hello guys! Sorry I haven't made a video in a few days. I've been really busy. But I'm making a game here, and it's called Snow Monster. And if you ever remember the old game called Ski Free, this game I'm making lets you play as a snow monster, and you actually get to eat skiers. And let me show you guys real fast because it's pretty cool. And I made this game a long time ago. I'm just remaking it. And you could just eat the skiers. This guy right here crashed, so I'm gonna eat him. And it's a lot of fun. But I wanted to show you guys one of the skiers because I'm kind of programming some AI in them, and one of the codes that I'm using is what's called choose, and this is something that I really wish I would have learned when I was first learning GML, because no one told me about this code. I never read it in any tutorials, and I never found out about it till like a year later. And it's so basic, and it's very cool. And this is all kind of off topic of what I've been showing you, but I feel like it'd be good for you to know how to do things like this in any game. And so basically what choose is it's going to set a variable at one of these numbers, and it's going to choose, basically. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. And obviously dir right here is a variable, and what whole code's going to do right now is give the variable dir a value of what one of these numbers in here, and then it's going to execute this code down here. So if dir is equal to 1, it's going to do all this. Else, if dir equals 2, it's going to do all this. And all this does is change directions. If dir is 1, that means the player is going to move to the left, and if dir is 2, he's going to move to the right. And we can see this in action. Watch, as soon as the game starts, the guy in the top, in the very top, and he'll move to the left or right. And there he goes to the right. So I'm going to show you guys how all this works, because it's very useful in games when you want something excuse me, if you want something random to happen or whatever. And there's actually a couple more codes that I'm going to be showing you today. So let's start a new file. Let's make an object, obj_test. Let's make a create event. Control, add code. We're going to be adding an integer variable. And remember, an integer variable is a variable with the value of a number, any number. A string variable is a variable with a string in it, which is a sentence in double quotations. So like, hello world. And a Boolean variable is a variable with the value of true or false. But we're going to make an integer variable. And we're going to call this variable myvar. We're going to give it, I don't know, a random value, 5. That's good. Then we're going to make a draw event, add event, draw, and we're going to draw out our variable. So it'd be draw text xy myvar. We're going to add a room, add our object in the room. So this is very basic. You learn this in the start of the tutorials. All we're doing is drawing out our variable myvar, which is just going to draw out 5 on the screen because we gave it the value of 5. We're going to add one more event, key press, and then space. And we're going to add some code. Now, what we're going to do is every time we click spacebar, we want it to choose a value between some certain numbers. So when we click space, we're going to put myvar equals choose. Then in parentheses, you'll put, I don't know, random numbers, 5, 10, 15, 20. And all this is going to do is set myvar, our variable, at a value of one of these numbers, be it 5, 10, 15, 20. And what you do is you separate the choices by commas. So 5, 10, 15, 20. And you can go as long as you want. 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. It doesn't matter. You can go as long as you want. So it's just what choose is going to do right now is just choose one of these numbers and assign it to our variable right here. So let's go ahead and see this in action. So again, every time we click spacebar, it's going to execute this code. So let's run the game. So there's our number right there, 5. I'm going to click space, 30, 40, 15, 10, 5, 45. So see, it's totally random. Every time I click the spacebar, it's going to choose a different number. So that is definitely an awesome, awesome code to keep in mind. And see, you can do cool things like I was doing in that other video. You can put like myvar equals choose, and this is something I do a lot. 1, 2, you can do more than 1 or 2. But then I'll go if my var equals 1, blah, do this, do that, do this, create something, bam, else, if my var equals 2, then blah blah, blah blah blah, create this, do that, and end it. And so, you know, this is something very cool. And you guys know how if statements work and everything. So you could just do something like that. You could just, at the very top of the step event, make my var choose one of these numbers. Then if it equals 1, you could like create something and change a variable if you wanted, or make an object move. And then else, if it equals this, you can make it do something else. And you could make this happen at certain points in the game. And so this is a very cool code to take advantage of. And another thing I want to show you is random. Random will choose a random number below the number that you put inside the parentheses, and you can put any number. So if I put 5, random is going to choose a random number between like 0 and 5. So let's go ahead and see that. Now every time we click space, it's going to give us a random number between 0 and 5. Starts out 5, 4.94, 3.48. I mean, it's just totally random numbers, and they're going to be decimal numbers when you use just the flat out random. But if you want just a regular number, you would just put irandom, which stands for integer random, and then you put in 5 or whatever number, and then that would just give you a straight number with no decimal point. So let's go ahead and see that. Bam, bam, bam. Yeah, that's just going to give you a random number under 5, and you can put anything you want there. And then you could put like, if my var is greater than 50, or greater than 2, I mean, then do this, and this, and that, and that, and that. And all this code right here would do is, if my variable, which we will assign a random number somewhere between 0 and 5, is greater than 2, then do all this. And then you can put else if my var is less than 2, then do this, and this, and this, and that. And sometimes that's kind of cool to use. So this, if it's greater than a random number, then it's going to do this. If my variable is greater than 2, or less than 2, and greater than 2, then do this. So that's pretty easy, and it's very cool also to take advantage of. And what else? There's also random range, and then you could just put 2 numbers that you want to have it go through. So like 50 and 100. And all this is going to do, again, because it's just random range, it's going to give you a number with a decimal between 50 and 100. If you want just a straight number, it would be I random / change range, and then the numbers that you want. And then that's just going to give you a straight flat number between 50 and 100, so whatever number that is. And there's actually some pretty powerful math stuff that we could do. For instance, we could give my var the value of 5.23 or whatever decimal number you want to give this, and then put space, and we could round it off to the nearest whole number. So it'd be like round, I think we just even, yeah, I was right, sorry. So you just put like my var equals round my var. And all this is going to do is round 5.23 off to 5, which is the nearest whole number when we click space. So get this up, 5.23 space, it's just going to round it off. And sometimes you will be working with decimal. So those are just some codes I wanted to show you. All very useful stuff. All stuff you can come back to this tutorial and look back on and say, hey, this will be useful, how do I use this again? So I just want to show you guys that. Try to use it in one of your games that you might be working on. Alright, see you next tutorial.